Coming up on The Reaction.
As the fallout continues over Lee Anderson's comments about London Mayor Sadiq Khan and pro-Palestinian marches, does he have a point? Well, he'll be joining us shortly to give his reaction to the furore that he's created.
And as the Prince of Wales misses a major royal event due to a personal matter, why can't the royals tell us the truth about Kate and William?
And as Prince Harry loses his legal challenge, hurrah, over his security arrangements, why does he think he can have access to armed police services when he deigns to visit the UK?
And our Showbiz Supremo, Katie Hind, has the true story about Ellie Goulding's split from her husband, and it's not what you've read so far. Welcome to The Reaction with me, Sarah Vine.
And me, Andrew Pearce. We're every Wednesday on the Mail's YouTube channel, so make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss a single episode.
So we start this week with the MP who has been dominating all the headlines, Lee Anderson.
Well, there have been alarming scenes in London in recent weeks, on Saturdays in particular, with pro-Palestinian protesters shutting down parts of the capital, mobbing MPs and projecting deeply offensive anti-Semitic slogans on the iconic Big Ben.
And the Home Secretary, James Cleverly, has called for the Gaza rallies to stop, saying demonstrators have made their point, which I think is probably fair.
Yeah, I think he's right. And it comes amid an increasing threat against politicians of all sides since those Hamas terrorist attacks on October the 7th.
Meanwhile, the National Police Chiefs Council has been forced to ask the Treasury for extra funding after revealing nearly £30 million of taxpayers' money has already been spent patrolling these protests.
And all of this comes just days after Tory MP Lee Anderson was suspended from the Parliamentary Party for his comments about the rallies, claiming London Mayor Sadiq Khan was controlled by Islamists. Delighted to say we're joined by Lee Anderson himself. Lee, good afternoon to you. Lee, you have been not averse to causing controversy in your time as an MP. You've excelled yourself this time. But can I ask you straight away, are you about to cross the floor and join Reform UK? You met Richard Tice, the Reform Party leader, on Saturday. Nobody knows what went on between the two of you. Are you about to defect?
Hi, guys. Well, Andrew, I'll give you the same answer as I've given everybody else. I'm not prepared to discuss my political journey, but I will say this. I have not ruled out joining the Liberal Democrats either.
I don't think they want you, Lee.
What about the SNP?
I know the Lib Dems have drafted an EDM. I think there's about 5 out of the 15 Lib Dems actually signed the EDM to call me back to the House to apologise for my comments. I'm actually thinking about signing that EDM myself, just so they can listen to what I have to say. So, look, I'm not going to discuss, what's going off in private. I'm not denying anything. I'm not admitting anything. I know you want to hear it, but I know you've got to ask me that question, guys, but that's as far as I'm going to go on that subject.
OK, you've said that the language you used was clumsy in describing Sadiq Khan in that interview on GB News where you're a presenter. Do you regret what you've said?
No, I don't regret what I've said. It's just that I could have been a little bit smarter because people's used it to attack me. They're suggesting that I'm racist, and I'm not. You cannot be called racist for criticising a religion. That's just nonsense. I didn't even criticise a religion. I criticised the man. I played the man. And they say in politics sometimes you shouldn't play the man. You should play the ball. You should play the team. But I played the man. And some people's use that for as a political opportunity to attack me, to have a pop at Rishi and government, and they've used it to cause division. These are the people that claim they don't want to see division stoked, but they're using this to stoke more division. My point I was trying to make, Andrew, if I'm honest, is that Sadiq Khan is not in control of the streets in London. We see it week in, week out on the streets, on Parliament Square, on Whitehall, where mobs can just turn up. Sometimes it's the same old faces leaping on or hijacking a demonstration. They cause mayhem. They try to influence Parliament, which they did last week. And so when people say to me, what did you mean? I'm saying that Khan and the police haven't got control of the streets of London. It's the mob that's outside that's got control.
I mean, I think there's a lot of truth in what you say, but I have a problem with what you said for the simple reason that I think that, well, there's various things here. Number one, yes, I think the process has gone too far, but I do think that you have to be very careful not to undermine the sort of positions of politicians. Your job as a politician is not to sort of ratchet these things up. It's to have a sensible, rational conversation. And you've given ammunition to critics of the Conservative government, which is very unhelpful at this stage. I mean, Andrew asks about reform, and I'm interested in knowing about that. But the truth is, if you do defect to reform, and if people vote for reform, what will happen is that will split the Conservative vote, and we will be even more likely to get a Labour government, which, you know, as you said yourself, has a problem with these issues. So I just think, you know, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that I actually agree with Cleverly that these marches have probably done their job. We've had so much of it, and we all know what these people think. And I was absolutely furious that they projected that slogan on the House of Commons last week. But I just think at this stage, in a very feverish situation, I think if you're a responsible politician, what you try to do is dial this stuff down, not dial it up.
Well, it's a fair comment, but we'll come back at you. I disagree with the first part of the conversation just then, in that it's my job as a politician. I'm from a place called Ashfield, and if you don't know where Ashfield is, that's in the real world. That's north of Watford. That's a place that's my home. It's a place where I've lived all my life. So when I go into my pubs at the weekend, they all stand up and clap and say, "Lee, you've done it again. You said the right thing." And you've said I'm controversial. I'm not controversial. It's Parliament that's controversial. It's not me winding my residents up, my constituents up. It's not me who gets chased down the street when I'm back in Ashfield. It's the residents, the constituents of Ashfield, who are unhappy with what's happening in Parliament and around our great city. So it's this place that's being controversial, not me. I'm in tune, I think, with the constituents in Ashfield. My inbox tells me that. My neighbours tell me that. The people in the pub tell me that. The people in the shopping centres tell me that. So when you're saying I'm controversial, just step back a little bit and have a think about what you're actually saying. It's not me that's controversial. Yes, the bubble down here, the Westminster bubble, the politicians, the media, whatever that hang around this place might say I'm controversial, or the people that hang about in Islington at tea parties clinking their little glasses of Prosecco and speaking all nicely, they might think I'm controversial, but I'm not. It's them that's controversial, and they need to wake up and realise what the people in this country actually want. They want to see peace on our streets. They want to see people living together. And this diversity thing that they all bang on about down here, it's not working very well at the moment. This diversity, this strive for diversity is creating division.
But how do you think saying something like Sadiq Khan is controlled by Islamists helps? I don't understand how that helps.
Well, it doesn't help. I never said it did help. But, sometimes in this life, especially in this place, I've said it before, there are 650 MPs that work on this estate. If one out of that 650 hasn't got the guts or the gumption to call people out, let's remember, Sadiq Khan is a Labour politician at the end of the day. He's an awful politician. He's been an awful mayor. He's ruining this country. I sit in cabs every single day, taxi cabs. The London
I don't
drivers,
disagree with you on that.
No,
that's
true. They know stuff. They know about London, and they're a great education for me since I've been working down here. And you should hear what they say about Mayor Khan and the way that London's been run. They're absolutely disgusted. They don't feel like it's their own city anymore. It's been taken over by this woke nonsense that's more interested in stealing money off motorists. I've had 3 bloody fines in last month driving down here. I shan't be doing that again. So there's one good thing. He's encouraged me to use public transport.
Let me ask you, Lee, do you think if people like you stray into the area of race and Muslims and Islamism, people cry immediately, don't they? You can't say that, it's racist. Why is it racist to talk about the fact that some people in certain communities, perhaps in Bradford, perhaps in East London, perhaps even in your constituency, no longer feel at ease, they feel alienated because there's been such a rapid, massive expansion of immigration in their local community. And yet if anyone dares to raise that on their behalf, they're shouted down as racists.
Well, this is why one of the reasons, Andrew, probably said what I did last week. It's not racist to criticise a certain section of society. And I did a piece in the Express, it was yesterday, where I hark back into the 1970s. My in-laws are from Ireland. They're all Irish Catholics, and they lived in Ireland in the 70s and 80s when the Troubles were on. Now, the IRA were doing some wicked, horrible things, both in Ireland and in this country, the Birmingham bombings, as you remember, and the stuff that went off in England during the 80s. Horrible, shocking stuff. But we didn't blame the normal, hard-working, decent, everyday people in Ireland, the Irish Catholics, for the horrors that were going off in this country. It's totally different. So it was right to call the IRA out, but you're not having a go at the people living in Ireland. It's like now I'm calling out the Islamists, who are, again, a tiny minority who happen to have a Muslim faith. The Muslims I've been speaking to over the past few days have said to me, Lee, we know what you're saying. Yes, your language might have been a bit clumsy, but we do not want to be associated with these people that come hanging around Parliament Square, shouting these horrific, horrible things and shining, from the rivers to the sea on Big Ben, Elizabeth Tower, whatever you want to call it. The normal, decent, everyday Muslim don't want nothing to do with that. And, it's that loud mob, Andrew, that this tiny minority of a particular group in society who seem to be having influence, and we saw it last week when they influenced parliamentary procedure. I'm sure they did, because there was screaming, shouting, horrible chants, and to see that graphic on Big Ben is horrific. It's terrible, but they influence, and now they've done it once. They'll try and do it again.
Because the police let them do it. The police didn't stop them.
I mean, they openly said, one of the organisers of the march said they openly wanted to shut Parliament down. They wanted to make MPs frightened. But the thing is, I think you have just given these people a lot of fuel. That's the problem. Because by saying that Sadiq Khan is controlled by them, I mean, is there any evidence that he's controlled by Islamists?
I will give you the evidence right now. This happens every Wednesday almost now. These mobs turn up, or every time we have a vote about Gaza, they turn up. So has he got control? No, he hasn't. Who's got control?
That's not what you were saying. You were
up.
saying he was controlled by Islamists. I mean, let's flip it on its...
He's not called it out. From the rivers to the sea.
But
not once over the past week has he called it out.
Yes, but the thing is that if you the point is, if you flip this on the head, and say Sadiq Khan was Jewish, for example, and if you had said this man is controlled by a Jewish cabal, that would be anti-Semitic. You can understand why people are really taken aback by what you've said.
No, this is where the media, when you say I'm stoking up division, this is where you lot come into play, stoking division and creating division. It is because I don't do a religion check on a politician when I have a go at them. If they've done something wrong, or they're not doing something right, I don't get Wikipedia up and decide, have a look what religion this person is. I will attack them on their policy, not on their faith, and not on the colour of their skin, and not where they were born. I will attack them on what they're actually doing to this great country.
But Lee, if you had simply said Sadiq Khan has no control over these people, that would be completely acceptable, okay? And you would be, by the way, completely right. But you didn't say that. You said he is controlled by Islamists, which is a different thing. And it is an incendiary thing to say. And it doesn't help the debate. And it doesn't help the debate.
But he's absolutely wrong, because it does help the debate, because we're still talking about it a week later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'd have said what you suggested, it had been done and dusted, and nobody's been talking about it, and I won't be talking to you now, so you're quite wrong.
Let me ask you just a couple of questions, because we're conscious of your time, Lee. You've refused to apologise, and your statement, which you put out, which I thought was admirable, actually, I agree with, I think, just about all of it, you're clearly not going to apologise. You speak the language of ordinary voters. You'd be a terrible loss to the Tory party.
Well, yeah, I think so. But, I mean, that's out of my hands now. I mean, the Conservative Party gave me a home when I was politically homeless. They welcomed me on board, looked after me, protected me. And I owe them a lot for that. And sometimes, Andrew, in Parliament, when people say, well, why did you vote that way? Well, I believe in supporting the government. I believe in loyalty. I believe that sometimes you can actually vote for stuff that you don't 100%, you can't 100% get behind, but you do it because you're loyal to the party. We're trying to do a job. We're trying to run the country. You're loyal to your mates. I've been in the chamber today in PMQs, and when I walked in, I went and sat with my mates, and my mates just happened to be sat on the left-hand side as I walked in, and they're Conservatives. They're my friends.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the decision is up to the issue.
Sure. Well, let me ask you this as well. There was a government minister doing the interview, the broadcast around yesterday. He was asked 6 times if what you said was racist or Islamophobic, and he didn't answer the question. And the Deputy Prime Minister, Oliver Dowden, who I'm not a particular fan of, it has to be said, when he was interviewed a few days ago, equally couldn't say whether what you said was racist or Islamophobic. If they can't say that, then why did they suspend you?
Well, this is the problem we have in this country at the moment, Andrew. Nobody can they can define what Islamophobia is, but you ask 3 people, they'll all give you a different answer. It's nonsense. I mean, if you was to call out Christianity, you would be called by some who's religious people. You might be called a blasphemer. But it's okay to blaspheme. You know, we're allowed to attack religion. We're allowed to question the teachings in the Bible. So we are allowed to question or challenge teachings in the Quran. But if you do that, then you're called a
racist.
A racist.
Yeah.
So I questioned a young man the other day. He accused me of Islamophobia in a meeting. And I just said to him, what is Islamophobia? And he just stared at me for 20 seconds with the glazed expression.
Yeah.
And in the end, he just said, well, it means you're racist.
Yeah.
He couldn't give an answer. So we have to define, this place I work at has to define actually what Islamophobia actually is. Because if it's just challenging the religion, then that should be fine.
Can we ask you, next time you come on this interview with us, Sarah and I, will you be talking to us as Lee Anderson, Conservative MP for Ashfield, or Lee Anderson, MP for somebody else?
It'll be Lee Anderson, MP for Ashfield.
Fantastic. Good.
So you're going to keep speaking out?
I am.
Good. Lee Anderson.
Very good. Don't go to Reform, because that won't help anything.
No, we want you to stay in the Tory party.
Don't be enticed by Mr.
Don't be enticed by Tice.
I like that.
All right. Lovely to talk to you.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. So what's your reaction to all of this? Do you agree with Lee Anderson, or are you on the slightly snowflake Sarah Vine side?
Obviously I'm wrong, but I have to put the case.
You do. So let us know by emailing reaction@dailymail.co.uk or comment below. Do you agree with me, Lee Anderson, or Sarah Vine?
Oh, please agree with me. Someone agree with me. Now, why can't the royals tell us the truth about Kate and William? It's this week's Royal Reaction. There was massive concern yesterday when Prince William abruptly pulled out of a service of thanksgiving for his godfather, apparently due to a personal matter.
So it was exactly 45 minutes before the event at Windsor Castle, but Kensington Palace stubbornly refused to tell us any more other than it was a personal matter.
Well, I mean, the thing is, this wasn't just him not turning up for something. He was an integral part of the service, wasn't he? He was supposed to be doing a reading.
He really was. Look, this is the exiled King of Greece, a very, very dear friend of the late Queen and Prince Philip's. He was Prince Philip's sailing partner.
Very important.
Very important in royal circles. And I did the Royal Peters, for years on the Times, years on the Telegraph. It is unprecedented for such a senior member of the royal family to withdraw such short notice. Order of service printed, the royals already on their way to the castle, the Greek royal family, exiled Greek royal family, already on their way. He had to tell them 45 minutes before, and because he is de facto king,
at the moment, yes,
the monarch was on his way to actually having treatment for his cancer in central London. Queen Camilla was there, of course, too. It was even more important that he was there, which makes it, Sarah, even more inexplicable that he pulled out at such short notice with just that, personal reasons.
Well, it just makes you think it has to be something really quite serious for him to do that. That's the issue. And it was an odd day yesterday because we all got a sort of notification at about sort of 5:30 in the afternoon that a really big royal announcement was about to be made. So then everybody sort of got in a panic thinking, crikey, it must be something really terrible because William's not gone to this thing and he was supposed to be there, and now we're getting a big royal announcement. And it was awful. It was
we assumed it was something to do with.
We assumed it was something either to do with Catherine or Charles. As it happened, it was very sad. The death of Thomas Kingston, who was married to Lady Gabriella Windsor, who is the daughter of the Prince and Princess Michael of Kent.
Yeah, who were actually at the service.
Poor things.
Stoic, royal as they are.
Apparently, he was found dead on Sunday night. No one really knows why. So it was all a bit of a sort of terrible day for the royals yesterday.
But in a sense, because they'd had tipped off broadcasters, newspapers like ours in advance, it escalated the whole drama.
It did, yeah.
Because we thought there must be.
I think both journalists and also to an extent the public are quite worried because the signals coming from the palace, both about the king and about the Prince and Princess of Wales, are not great at the moment.
They're saying she's doing well, but what does that mean? And the king, they haven't told us what cancer he's got, but look, we talked about that last week. We knew he was going in for checked for an enlarged prostate, but they haven't told us, and there's all sorts of rumours about that, and I still think they won't be able to hold the line on that. But here we go again. It's just extraordinary that William wasn't there. He was very fond of his godfather, the exiled King of Greece. The other thing, Sarah, that which then meant, awful Prince Andrew took control.
I know.
And now that is a really bad
That's a vision of hell.
He just sort of bustled to the front with Sarah Ferguson. Oh, why did she have to be there? Although she's had her own cancer scare. Bustled to the front, loitered with intent outside the door to the chapel, introducing people. He almost took over because if you looked in the order of succession, he was the most senior.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a difficult balance here to be struck, I think, for the royals between protecting the privacy of the king and the Prince and Princess of Wales, and I do think they are allowed a little bit of privacy, particularly when it's sort of personal health matters, but also not leaving a vacuum which then gets filled with speculation and conspiracy theory, which is what's happening at the moment. So I think they need to understand that in this day and age, you know, you can't just not say anything.
No.
You know, you have to give an explanation. Well, you know, William not showing up like that to something that he was such an integral part of is, I'm afraid, something that they do need to explain. I mean, just say he's fallen downstairs. I don't know, but just something.
And his home, literally where he lives with his children and his wife, is literally a 5-minute walk from the chapel.
Exactly.
So all the more inexplicable that he couldn't be there. And the service would have been over in an hour.
Exactly.
So it was 65 minutes of his life.
I mean, really,
65 minutes of his life.
Could he not have just popped over there to do it?
And then some are now saying he just doesn't have the same ethic of the Queen and his father. The show must go on.
Yeah, but
stoical.
But I don't think that's such a sort of a big demand.
I don't agree with that anyway.
No,
I think
as you
because
say,
if there was a serious problem, there was a serious problem.
I think he is very committed, but I just think, you know, the more you think about it, the more you think this must have been a really serious problem. What is this very serious problem? We're all very worried about it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Genuinely, lots of people love the monarchy. They love Kate and William, and they're very worried about her. They're worried about the king, and this is going to make people much more worried. I mean, my inbox, I'm sure yours is the same, saying, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Text messages, phone calls from all sorts of people saying, they assume that we know because the press...
We don't know,
We
sadly.
don't know.
We
do not know what's wrong with her. We know this, we've heard some speculation, and because people genuinely are concerned.
But and as you say, they're worried because it's not, you know, if it was just the king or just William and Kate, it might be less, but it's because it's them both and they are such pillars of the royal family. This is why the problem is, you know, this is why people want to know. They just want to know a bit more. Anyway, we'd love to know your reaction.
But I have another suggestion. We've talked about this before. The solution for Prince Andrew, they probably need a new gamekeeper on the Balmoral estate. Probably needs to be a full-time job. And we'd never have to see him.
And it would keep him fit.
Ever again. And it looks to me like he needs to be a bit keep fit. And he could always take Sarah Ferguson with him.
I'm sure she'd go.
Yes,
I'm sure she'd go. Well, I mean, I just think Princess Anne should be put in charge of everything, but I always say
and she should have been at the front of the crowd yesterday, by the way.
She was pretty far to the front.
But she should have been at the front. Because
fabulous knee-high
boots. She is absolutely brilliant. We love her.
Anyway, what do you think? Is it any of our business? What's going on with William and Kate? And what do you think about Andrew stealing the limelight? Comment below or email us at reaction@dailymail.co.uk.
Well, coming up, we're going to discuss Prince Harry losing his latest High Court legal battle. Good.
No gloating.
Good. But first, your reaction to the reaction.
We love reading your comments and thoughts here on The Reaction. Last week, we discussed whether it was wise for Prince William to wade in on the conflict in Gaza. Overwhelmingly, you think he was right.
Which means you don't agree with either of us, because we both thought he wasn't. So Tracy on YouTube is typical of some of the people who got in touch. He says, when the King was a Prince of Wales, he said things that the Queen couldn't say. Asking for peace is not political, it's humanitarian. He just has a bigger platform than the rest of us.
Jackie on YouTube says, I love the late Queen, but I do wish people would stop comparing Charles and William to her. Fair point. They are their own people and want to do things differently. I can't see what all the fuss is about. All he wants is peace.
And Ellie on YouTube says this, what does the world come to when a call for peace gets people in a twist? This is a simple humanitarian message. Prince William didn't take side. Such a stupid thing to criticise. You were the stupid bit.
I am very stupid.
Not me.
Teensy Mum, I love that name, says on YouTube, there was nothing remotely political in Prince William's statement. When did it get so controversial to say you are hoping for peace? For heaven's sake, find something else to clutch your pearls over. You have...
Is that me or you?
I think...
Probably
I don't
me.
have any
Probably
pearls.
me. I do think it was a bit political, more than a bit political, the point you made, because there was a Commons vote the very next day, which of course then descended into chaos.
But no, I'm wrong. So
now,
that's fine.
Zendrick on YouTube says, I agree with Prince William, but I rather think he should stay out of politics. I don't always agree with his impassioned statement or his support of one country against the other, such as Ukraine, for instance. I think these are hot potatoes the royal family should just stay out of. Better to be seen as neutral in a highly polarised world.
Yes. I mean, I do think that, all those comments are very fair, but I do think that, in the context of that parliamentary vote, it was just...
The timing was terrible.
Just the timing was quite
He did
bad.
it the week after.
Yeah.
He'd have probably got away with it.
Of course. I mean, he probably could have made an even bigger speech. Anyway, if you want to message us about any of this week's talking points, you can comment below or email reaction@dailymail.co.uk.
Now, this week's allergic reaction is the same for both of us, and it's our dear old friend, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, who's lost his latest High Court battle over his security arrangements, and I'm trying not to look smug.
And failing.
Yes. Prince Harry took the government, the Home Office, to court because they said, because he'd moved away, he's gone to his castle in Montecito in California with his to live his millionaire lifestyle. You're no longer part of the royal family, so you're not entitled to armed or protection cover at public expense.
When you come to the UK.
When you come to the UK. He took the Home Office to court saying, OK, I don't expect the taxpayer to pay for it, but I want access to it. So click my fingers, I'm coming to Britain, I want armed protection officers, which means the Metropolitan Police have to put some of the most highly trained police officers at his disposal when he comes here on a whim, like he did a couple of weeks ago, to see his father. By the way, the taxpayer, Royal Protection, stepped in on that occasion. I think it's absolutely right what the court has decided today.
Well, the thing is, it's quite a scarce resource, that type of protection. Mainly also because we had this awful incident recently where a firearms officer was prosecuted, do you remember, for shooting someone?
Yeah.
So actually the number of firearms officers that they can actually get hold of is diminishing quite rapidly, which is one issue.
Yeah, why would you want to be a firearms officer? You can be prosecuted for doing your job.
But also I think that there are other sort of slightly more pressing security issues, and this week we've seen this story about MPs now needing close security, just sort of ordinary MPs. So this sort of body, which is called RAVEC, and it's their job basically to decide who gets protection, who doesn't, and they do that on the basis of kind of quite complex and sort of in-depth assessments of a person's security, and it will depend on what the threats are. And it should be pointed out that there are lots of threats against MPs at the moment. There's obviously the sort of fallout from the situation in the Middle East. There's a lot of environmentalists who are being very aggressive and who are threatening.
Well, just a boiler talking about getting into MPs' homes.
Exactly, and threatening their children, threatening their families, whatever. And then there are sort of the usual sort of right-wing nutters. So there is quite a lot that needs taking care of. And Harry is really here very rarely.
Quite.
He really is. I mean, he's come twice in the last year? I mean, he doesn't really come here at all. I suppose you could say he would come here more if he had protection, and then maybe the king would get to see his grandchildren. But would he really? I don't really know. Yeah. So I think they've made the right decision. I know Harry will appeal. But if you're a sort of standard Hollywood celebrity and you come here, you just have a couple of goons that you pay for yourself, and that's how it works.
And they're not going to be armed.
Obviously, what Harry was, which is what he's used to, which is the full Monty, the Outriders.
Exactly.
I've had Outriders, and Outriders as I tell you, honestly, Outriders is the most glamorous thing that can ever happen to you.
It does make you feel like you really matter.
You feel. And of course, like the most important person on earth.
When politicians lose the Outriders, it's a big shock. So Mrs Thatcher, who I worshipped, she had a house which she bought in Dulwich on the premier estate. Barrett's Homes built it. So when she was ousted by those cowardly Tory MPs, let's not start discussing about Mrs Thatcher, she then had to, after she'd seen the Queen to stand down as Prime Minister, she went to Dulwich, where the house was. The Outriders had gone, and what had taken about 15 minutes before took 2 hours. Traffic jams, Dennis.
I mean, they just
what a traffic jam
through the London traffic like butter.
Imagine what that traffic jam would be like now.
No, I mean you'd probably have to cycle. I don't imagine you'd actually be allowed to drive. But so I think I think Harry, he just doesn't. He's chosen to walk away.
Yeah.
He doesn't want this lifestyle. He doesn't want to be part of that.
But he wants the trappings, Sarah, doesn't he? But Harry likes all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's what he's used to. I can remember
Meghan loves it.
Of course, and I can remember when there was huge speculation about is Tony Blair going to go to see the Queen about general elections. This is in 2005 when I was on the Times with you. And I went into the newsroom with great triumphant air and said, I can tell you, we'll have an announcement about general election in about the next 2 hours. How do you know? I said, I've just seen the Queen driving past the office with Charles, with Prince Philip. And she looked at me and I smiled. She looked away because she'd obviously had to come back early from Windsor Castle to go see that wretched Prime Minister to grant him a general election. You could see she was very furious.
We do need a police force that can actually, do what they're supposed to do.
When you come here, pay for your own protection officers. They just won't be armed. But who does he think wants to...
Just get a couple of bouncers, it'll be fine.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway.
They don't come here anyway, as you make that point.
No, they don't come here anyway.
Good.
We know this will divide opinion. Let us know yours by commenting below or emailing reaction@dailymail.co.uk. For this week's Showbiz reaction, we are joined by the Mail's brilliant Showbiz soprano, Katie Hind. Katie.
Hello.
You have some stories.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
You've got the inside story on Ellie Goulding's split from her husband.
Well, yes. Well, this has taken quite some time, actually.
Can I just stop you for 1 second? Andrew doesn't know who Ellie Goulding is.
Ellie Goulding?
Ellie Goulding is a singer.
Right. Will you sing part of one of her songs?
No, I can't.
But how else will I know who she is?
Because if I sing, you won't be able to understand what the song...
You must know Ellie Goulding.
No, I can't
Yeah,
sing.
you can.
How long will I love you?
No, you can't sing.
No,
actually, that was better than me.
I can't sing.
Well, you
I
sing
can't
it.
sing.
No, I'm not singing.
Okay. So that's who she is.
So Ellie Goulding, she has had many boyfriends. I think that's okay to say that. Ellie Goulding has had to come out and confirm she split up with her husband, Casper Jopling. He's an art dealer. She married him in a big, fancy, star-studded wedding at York Minster back in the summer of 2019. About a year ago, I understood that they'd split up. Last week, she went off to Costa Rica where she was papped in the sea, frolicking with a very buff surf instructor.
Hunk.
Oh.
Now, Ellie was horrified to find out that these pictures had been taken, and then had to weigh up whether she wanted to continue to say she hadn't split up with her husband or come clean to avoid, accusations of perhaps cheating on her husband. So she decided to finally admit it.
Is it just a fling or is it a proper relationship with this hunk?
So my understanding is she met him, she went out to Costa Rica at the beginning of January where she met him. He's got a surfing instructor company
it's classic.
on the beach. I mean, I can see
There'll be quite a few Ellie Goulding lovers with this surfing instructor,
well,
trust me.
I don't know. Well, maybe. I mean,
every week.
So then she
Men,
returned.
do more surfing.
Yeah.
I mean, I see why she's gone there. I mean,
Right, okay. So you fancy him, do you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if he can speak English. I mean, I don't know if they can even sort of...
Maybe they're not talking.
They just speak their language of love.
They were sort of cuddling and he was kissing her head. It was all very romantic and loving. So she met him in January and then she returned this month with some friends and was papped by a local photographer. Now, she wasn't expecting it to happen. Now, what I can tell you now is she's now returned home. She's just come through Heathrow Airport and she's gone back to her family home where I imagine her husband is there.
Oh, they're still living in the same house?
Well, they've got two houses. He was slung out to the smaller one. But
they've got a kid as well,
They've got a 3-year-old, so he was at home looking after the 3-year-old boy, Arthur.
While she was off with the surfer.
While she was off with the surfer. Now, what I don't know is whether the husband knew that she'd met the surfer.
Oh dear.
But it's been a bit of a torrid time for Ellie.
She's a big star.
She's a massive star, and she's going to be at the Brits.
She's a big star.
She's a very big star, and she's going to be at the Brits on Saturday.
I was going to ask you about that. That's on Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, Saturday night, where she's having her big red carpet moment.
Right. Has she got a new record coming out?
Well, apparently she's got lots of exciting projects coming up. So
all this publicity.
I don't really, given she's just arrived back at Heathrow alone without said hunk, I don't believe he'll be accompanying her on the red carpet. I think
he's got
solo.
he's got another glamorous
the Brits
client
is interesting
next
though,
week.
because I remember, I used to go to the Brits once upon a time. Well, yeah, when I was arts editor at the time. Do you remember? I used to get invited to things like that. And it always used to be quite a laugh. It used to be quite a sort of bun fight. You know, there was always, do you remember the famous Chumbawamba moment?
Yes.
And then there
Water
was always,
over John Prescott's
there was always
head.
a Keith Flint or someone doing something naughty. It's very staid these days, the Brits.
It's become very, last year Harry Styles was, of course, the star of the show, and we've had the controversy over the getting rid of the gender
so they don't have an award for best female anymore.
Yeah,
they have
just
that.
And it meant that the first time they did that, they were all male.
Of course.
Yeah, they were last year. They were all male, and Harry Styles did.
Well, be careful what you wish for, I'm afraid.
Well, yeah,
Harry Styles. That PC stupid
Harry Styles does very well with the whole sort of gender fluid thing,
yes,
but I don't think he can quite cover all the bases.
No, he did have a pop at the organisers though.
Good for him.
So that was good. But this year, and we've got Dua Lipa, who I believe is going to open the show, I've been told.
I've heard of Dua Lipa.
That.
Yes, she's a lady.
It's a singer.
It's a very, very woman-friendly show. We've got Kylie Minogue there.
Do you think that's subconsciously because of the whole criticism?
Yes, and we've got this wonderful woman called Ray.
Oh, I know Ray.
Her name's Rachel. Yeah. Rachel Agatha Keane from South London. And Rachel Keane is up for a record-breaking 7 nominations.
Right.
She was on, the reason I know who she is because she was on Jules Holland's Hootenanny, which I always watch religiously.
I haven't heard of her either.
And she's had this most fantastic comeback because she was signed to a record label who wouldn't release her album. She got very vocal. She then spoke about how she was a victim of Me Too in the music industry. And she had to then go to America to get signed. So she's now very much kind of 2 fingers up to the British music industry. So I'm really excited to see whether she's going to come out and again, have a bit of a go at them.
I think they should bring back male and female awards.
But I completely
agree.
I completely agree. And also, do you know what? The last big female British act that was signed in Britain was Dua Lipa in 2014.
That's a long time ago.
So we haven't had a big British female star since 2014. And think of how many men.
What about Adele?
That was way before 2014.
Adele's been around for longer than that.
She's just pulled out of some has she just pulled out of some concerts or something?
Yeah, she's pulled out of her again Las Vegas.
I was just about to say
shows.
again, isn't that a
yeah,
big
but
again?
she hasn't cancelled them. She's postponed them, which means her fans won't get their money back. Some of them are already in Las Vegas.
Oh, not good.
So it's not. It's
She's
not
done
good
this
for
before,
her. She
hasn't
has
she?
done this
Why
before.
has she done that? She's being a bit flaky recently, isn't she?
She's blaming her voice. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a bit of a shame. But I think back to the Brits, you mentioned some moments. I've seen some moments there, and of course we'll all remember the Oasis moments and Jarvis Cocker.
I remember my favourite Brit moment is Madonna falling backwards down those stairs.
Absolutely brilliant,
after that poor dancer took on her cape.
Yeah.
She won't have forgiven him.
No, oh my goodness, can you imagine that man?
Ever
He's
again.
possibly locked up somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, firing squad for him. My word.
So this year it does seem, it kind of has lost its sparkle a bit, I think, this year.
Are you going? You'll be there.
I think all award ceremonies have. I'm sorry, I know this is your bread and butter, but I think they've all got quite boring and repetitive. To be honest, we've got the Oscars coming up soon.
The Oscars has got boring, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Except from 2 years ago when we had Will Smith and.
That was quite a fun moment.
That was a fun moment.
Okay. Well, thank you, Katie.
Thanks very much.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Google Ellie Goulding, and I'm going to.
You'll actually love Ellie Goulding. She's right up your street.
And I think you're wasted as a journalist. You should be a singer. Let's have that bar again. Sing that little bit again, because I thought it was rather good. Come on, you can do it again.
That's it for today. Join us again next
She's still
Wednesday.
singing.
Shut up
She's still
for
singing.
more reaction to the stories making the headlines.
And make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And we might even get Katie to sing some more. See you again next Wednesday.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.